I used to believe that no matter how cruel the world could be, there was always room for hope. But then I set foot in Gaza, and I realized that there are places where even hope is crushed beneath the boots of war. I walked through streets reduced to rubble, where homes that once echoed with laughter now stood as broken ruins, riddled with bullet holes. I met people who had lost everything: their homes, their families, even their right to dream of a better tomorrow. I remember meeting a young mother sitting on the ground amidst the wreckage, clutching her lifeless baby in her arms. The child, only a few months old, was still wrapped in a tattered blanket. She did not cry. Her eyes were hollow, as if her soul had left this world along with her child. I knelt beside her, wanting to say something, but I couldn't. How could I offer comfort when I too was screaming inside that this is not fair? Then I met Layla, an 8-year-old girl with tangled hair and dark circles under her eyes from sleepless nights. Layla lost both her parents in an airstrike and was trapped under the rubble for 2 days before being rescued. When I asked her if she was hungry, she simply shook her head. She wasn't hungry. She just wanted her parents back. I looked into her eyes and saw something no child should ever have to carry: despair. I saw Ahmed, a 12-year-old boy lying in a hospital bed, his body covered in bandages. One of his legs was gone. When I asked if he was in pain, he just smiled, a faint, dry smile. "It's okay, brother. At least I still have one leg to run if the bombs come again." His words cut into my heart like a knife. Why should a child ever have to accept such a cruel reality? I met rescue workers, doctors, and volunteers who hadn't slept in days, desperately trying to pull survivors from the wreckage, trying to save those who still had a chance. One night, in a crowded hospital, I watched as a doctor fought to keep a newborn alive, manually pumping oxygen into the baby's tiny lungs because there was no electricity for the ventilators. I will never forget the look on his face when the baby's breathing finally stopped. He lowered his head, whispered a prayer, and moved on to the next patient, because there were too many lives hanging by a thread and no time to grieve. And then there was Sammy, a 5-year-old boy who ran up to me, held my hand, and asked, "Are you an angel?" I laughed softly and shook my head. "No, little one. I'm just a visitor." He looked at me and said, "Then tell the world we are still here." I believe in God. I believe He watches over these children, that He cries with them. But I also believe that God did not create war. We did. We allowed this to happen. And now the choice is ours, to continue looking away or to stand up and say, "No more." If I could, I would take all their pain upon myself. I would bear their suffering so they wouldn't have to. But I know I can't. I'm just an 18-year-old boy, not a saint. But I do have a dream. I dream of a day when bombs no longer fall, when children don't flinch at the sound of thunder, mistaking it for an explosion. I dream of a day when Layla can sleep without nightmares, when Ahmed can run with 2 legs, when Sami no longer asks strangers if they are angels. That day will only come if we refuse to accept war as an answer, if we choose love over hate, peace over violence, humanity over destruction. So tonight I stand here before you, not to entertain, but to ask, will you stand with me? Will you raise your voices for those who have none? Will you remember Layla, Ahmed, Sami, and the countless others who are waiting for the world to finally listen? Because they are still here, and as long as they are, we cannot remain silent.
songs and broken dreams. Echoes of the lost still scream. Children cry in silent pain as war calls out their names again. I see the sorrow in their eyes, a world on fire, a heart that dies. When will we learn? When will we say no more lives to waste away? Lay down your arms, let love remain. Let the rain wash away the pain. Hold the hands of those who weep. Sing them songs, let their souls keep. A mother waits, her hands are cold. A promise made, a story told. But war it takes, it never spares, leaving ghosts in empty chairs. I see the song